An upper bracket match that many of us, including myself, would not have expected. mousesports getting the better of Team Liquid. Hey, that might not be a massive surprise, but GODSENT taking down the titan that is Astralis. That was a shocker. Vince, now we get to go into what is an upper bracket match which could send one of these teams, or will send one of these teams, straight through to the playoff stage.
No, absolutely. And I think GODSENT, one of the biggest upsets of the entire tournament, regardless of what happens here on out. I think even if they beat mousesports, it would be less of an upset than if them beating Astralis. But then again, we have to say, how much is Emmy going to fare against a Karrigan? I feel like Astralis just didn't really show up in their match at all. Like, they had a couple of moments, but they were fleeting at best. mousesports of Karrigan, you'd assume at this point he's going to take this GODSENT threat very seriously, have given them a lot of emphasis and like focus and really try to go through their plays. But then again, we go back to the point that we highlighted before the GODSENT match against Astralis. How much can you realistically research on this team? Emmy's top to bottom changed things up from Crystal, so there's not that much out there really.
Well, we can sort of back up what we were just saying by bringing up the bracket and show you how everything went down in this group. So of course, as said, mousesports did manage to 2-0 Liquid, and Liquid unfortunately have fallen completely out of the tournament because of it. GODSENT also besting Astralis and taking them down on Nuke as well. And we saw in the interview from Emmy that they expected them to pick Nuke. They picked us too. That was the one map that they won in dominant fashion. Now, this is where things will definitely get more interesting, because GODSENT versus mousesports, I would say GODSENT obviously relatively new, but mousesports look like a team in form. So to sort of see them play off against each other, that's going to be the real question. Because although things might have been a little bit rusty or a little bit rough, I guess you could say, for Astralis, mousesports in recent times, Vince, have been anything but. What I will say, though, before I give you a chance to comment, is your opinion doesn't matter, Vince. What matters is the opinion of Twitch chat. They are the true analysts. I know you guys, you're going to be telling us who is the victor, although I feel like most of you are going to call yourself a hashtag god in this situation. Or maybe you're a hashtag mouse. Who knows? I'm not going to judge. You can be whatever you want to be. But now we get to hear a little bit of what Vince thinks. And we're going to move into, I hope, a look at mousesports. You good?
Hi. We're back again. Right, yeah, I mean, you kind of built that up, and I don't think I'm going to be able to deliver on that little introduction, Tom. I'm going to be real. Yeah, I mean, mousesports, they're obviously the favorites in this. In terms of the maps, though, having a look through them, quite similar map pools, honestly. Overpass typically removed from mousesports, and then GODSENT kind of play a bit of everything. Again, though, with Emmy, don't really know what to expect. In terms of the threats, though, on mousesports, you obviously have to look at players like Rops. Like, this guy's an absolute monster. Frozen is another guy that you're expecting to see really light up the scoreboard and be one of their key members to contend with. That's the issue with mousesports, though, man. Like, everybody can pull their weight. It's another one of those teams where it doesn't feel like there's that many proper weak links.
Yeah, I think that's been the most impressive thing, though. Even Chris's level seems to be pretty strong. Like, you look at the stats versus Liquid, he was one of the top players in the entire server. And maybe that's because in terms of an AWPer, Liquid, we're still sort of wondering and questioning if they have that primary player who's going to be in place. But on the other side of things here, we do have that. Nonetheless, we are going to move in to take a look at what Karrigan thinks, and that's definitely far important than what me and Vince think.
We had like kind of a slow start, but you could see on the CD side, communication was growing, the confidence was coming back up. We did a little too many mistakes today, and when you play a team like Liquid, they're gonna punish it against you. So that's why I got close in the end on those two, I feel like.
bmast and Chris J in the 2 versus 4, and bmast has now made it even. He is off to a flying start thus far on Inferno. We are only 3 rounds deep, but he has 5 kills already to his name.
GODSENT has really impressed me with the result against Astralis because we played them a few days ago in another tournament where we kind of had the game under control, but it seems like they found some confidence and some momentum, so we need to shut it down so they don't run over us. If we're playing our A game, I think we come out on top of that game.
Just walked off. He's out. He's gone. No, doesn't want to do the interview anymore. He's had enough. And yeah, see you later, Karrigan, I guess. We'll see you very soon, we could say. And he is right. We've seen them play very recently I think that was in the Blast play-in, and it was dominant. Like, GODSENT never even really looked like they were in the match at all. Of course, that was the first best of 3 Emmy had ever played with the team. The second one went very well. I'm not even sure I want to think about what's going to be coming in for the third, but mentioning Emmy, we should probably move on to take a little bit of a look at GODSENT. So, an incredible result, Vince. I don't know if they're going to be able to match that today, however.
I agree. I feel like maybe it's a case of they've kind of shown the world what they're capable of doing, and now they're going to have a lot more respect from teams like mousesports that, as you said, walked through them pretty easily last time. When you beat Astralis, you definitely turn a few heads. I'm going to be looking towards Madden again. He's not necessarily the most sort of prolific fragger and always going to be putting up the stats, but he feels like the X factor. If things are rough, if they need someone to break through and just create chaos on a site, he's the kind of player that you unleash. So I feel like if Madden has a good performance, that's definitely a big part of the puzzle that could potentially go for GODSENT. And he did play well against Astralis too. He wasn't necessarily top fragging, but he had a lot of impact when he had big rounds.
Yeah, I think what we basically learned from this team is that Zen is probably going to be on point. Like, that's always the factor that we sort of consider. He's probably their best player in terms of consistency and the numbers he puts up. Whereas then we look at Farlig and Madden as 2 players that if they pop off, they could pretty much challenge versus any team. And well, we mentioned Farlig, and he shall appear, as we have got an interview with him right now.
I guess the only thing I have to say about Astralis is, you know, given the short time we've had to practice with Emmy, it's been a lot about if a person like has a read or something, we just believe in it 100%. It's all about full faith and believing in that we're getting the reads right and stuff. And we got enough reads right in this game to win them, which is pretty fucking sick.
There you go, Farlig though! What is that? That completely caught me off guard. He's not even broken a smile. He's just degged 3 players in a matter of seconds.
The last time we played mousesports in a best of 3, they beat us pretty easily. We just didn't really have any synergy at the time as a team. I think we'll put up way more of a fight than we did last time.
Well, here's hoping, right? Like, we do not want to see the same result as last time. It was not a particularly good performance, but yeah, we can cut GODSENT a lot of slack. And that was sort of the talk we were having, Vince, when looking at that first match, or the first match we saw versus Astralis, was like, okay, if they were to get bodied here, that would be absolutely fine. They've come in, got one of the toughest matches possible in Counter-Strike, and then they come out and win it. And we were blown away. Like, the 2 maps that they looked prepared on, at least, Train and Nuke, were impeccable. Sure, Dust 2 went the wrong way, and actually that's why moving into the veto, I think they have to ban it. Like, even though mousesports might be a little bit weaker on that map than others, I think that's their perma veto. The only way they let that through again is if they're playing the same game as last time, which is, okay, well, you don't really want to play Dust 2, so we don't want to either. And well, this time they're not playing the same game. Just, okay, let's get it out of there, let's ban it, and let's move on.
Yeah, and they still have the option of first picking either Train or Inferno, of course. These were both seen the last time these teams played each other. And the worry for me is that Farlig basically said, oh, we didn't have any synergy back then. Hopefully we do now. Mate, it was a week ago. Like, what can you realistically have done in 1 week? I'm not saying it's impossible to have more synergy, but I'm not really going to bank on them coming out and suddenly being the best oil machine. Nuke first, though, is interesting.
Yeah, for sure, because that is also a map that I would say with this new team, with Karrigan coming in with BMAS in there, this has been one of their go-to maps. Like, they've been very, very happy to play this. I think BMAS is a phenomenal entry fragger, but also Frozen's Lurk can really trouble teams. And although Astralis are a fantastic Nuke team as well, and they managed to take them through, I still think this might be a bridge too far, because firstly, I think that Karrigan has definitely done his due diligence. Like, he will have prepped for this game. He will have spotted weaknesses. And even, like, I think one of the first times we saw mousesports play against Vitality, they were good enough to sort of break them apart. And that was when they were basically considered the best team in the world. So I'm a little bit worried for them, but at the same time, I'm very happy, Vince, that they're actually looking to pick their strengths. They're not sat there going, oh, this time, how can we counter them? How can we break them down? They've gone, Nuke went well, let's pick Nuke.
And then it's Inferno, which they did absolutely smash GODSENT 16-6 last time they faced off against each other. So we know that that's a pocket pick. We know that that's a solid pick for mousesports. And already I'm just feeling like this unfortunate veto is kind of slipped away from GODSENT. We expected they were going to be sharing a lot of maps. Last map in is Train. They lost 16-8 against mousesports last time on Train. I mean, you do learn a lot from a loss, don't get me wrong, but are you able to learn a lot from a loss and basically build your entire defaults, your entire strategy in the better part of 7 days? That would be unbelievable if they actually pulled it off.
Well, there are not many #gods in the chat, it seems. I thought that a few people might join just because of the hashtag itself, but it seems like a hashtag is not enough to sway people into GODSENT's favor. And you know what, Vince? With mousesports getting their 3 best maps, I would say, that's fair. Like, I'll give them that. I probably would have put #mouse in the chat as well. And in fact, that is the prediction that I would be giving. Nonetheless, we went into the last series we had, and we said GODSENT don't stand a ghost of a chance. And you know what, Vince? They won.
Exactly. We both ripped them off. Many people in chat did. Many people around the world did. And yet they shocked the world with a huge performance. Now, could you just imagine, Tom, that they moved through towards the playoffs after beating Astralis and after beating mousesports? What an unbelievable string of results that would be.
Yeah, that would basically be going into this tournament, facing off against 2 of arguably the favorites, especially with teams like Vitality not being in the tournament at all, and then coming through and basically just going like, we're here to play. It would be a statement, especially going into the end of the year, and it's a statement I kind of hope they make. It would definitely spice things up in this tournament. Nonetheless, I do think it's going to be a very exciting game. Like, players that we've not really mentioned too much about are players like Rops, who, in many's opinion, I know Maniac's been saying it a lot recently, he is one of the best players in the world. In terms of individual skill, he can beat anyone out. And the problem I see for GODSENT is they could have their strategy on point. They could have planned this one down to the T. They could have everything the mousesports are going to do. But that might not be enough, because if Rops, Frozen, and BMAS, you add a little bit of Chris J spice into that mix, and there is nothing you can do. It's going to be an uphill battle for GODSENT, but they've beaten Astralis. Now, can they get through the mighty mouse? An upper bracket match which decides who gets into the playoffs. GODSENT coming into this with 1 best of 3 under their belts with this current in-game leader. mousesports have been slowly building up. They might be at slightly different stages of their overall lifespan, but the fact is, if GODSENT managed to win this match, it'd be an incredible feat very early on.
Oh, absolutely. If GODSENT won this match, I'm just saying, Emmy could probably ask for any sum of money on the planet, and GODSENT would have to deliver it first class.
Fill in the number.
Exactly. While bowing, while just everything they could possibly want, because it would be probably the most crazy step in with an IGL who's not even a member of the full team. Remember, like, he's still feeling out his options. He's still kind of on trial. Sorry.
You want a Mercedes, Emmy?
Yeah, Mercedes. Get him a Lamborghini. Lamborghini,
that's
honestly.
my thing.
But
Rest of the team just looking.
Yeah. But to be honest, if he came in as the IGL and he won against Astralis and mousesports, could they even be mad that he got offered one? Like, I would just, yeah, cool. Just give him whatever he wants, mate, at that point.
But that's true, and actually they did give him a lot of credit when it came out of the match. Like, we saw the tweets coming through. I think it was Farlig just saying that he's done so much work, and that is something, like, I know Emmy relatively well, like, spoken to him at multiple events. Even when he was in the coaching position, he was still practicing individually because he wanted to come back and play the game. In fact, I remember a conversation between him and his manager Pekka basically saying, like, no, you're not good enough. We've got players like Esperanto. We don't need you. Now, mousesports, this is an interesting pistol round. They have taken a hell of a lot of map control early on, and it's fairly telegraphed at this point where GODSENT are going to be going. Sure, you've beaten Astralis, but mousesports are a different beast.
They certainly are, and this beast has claws, but so does Stiko. 2 Glock headshots, and he's able to just charge straight away. Mad and slumps Frozen against the ladder. And mousesports, in disrepute right now. They are really having trouble holding on to either of these sites. Madden's just chipped in with another one, and Rops is hoping and praying that they push down to B so he can get a couple of freebie frags and is off angle, but that's not going to be the case. They've already taken systematic A control. They will be going in for the plant, and it's looking good for GODSENT claiming the first blood in the best of 3.
Yeah, unfortunately, he may have robotic aim as one of his superpowers, but mind control doesn't seem to be one of them yet. Although I think that one is exclusively owned by Carrigan instead, because he seems to be very good at getting the best out of his players. I think that's something I'm most excited by. I imagine FaZe at this point has sort of sat there going, well, how come BMAS wasn't this ridiculous when he played for us? And while the difference in many cases of many players' careers has been Carrigan, Rops has definitely seen, well, a huge rise. But I guess before this, I think he'd only really played for Estonian teams. And oh my god, I sort of mentioned yesterday that Esperanto is probably one of my favorite players to watch when he's at his best. The other is Rops. Like, I definitely have a Baltic bias. I'm not going to lie. It's where I started commentating. It's fair enough. I also try and be a little bit biased towards the UK players, but that's a little bit harder to get behind.
Yeah, there's not many of them. And although there are some good lads, there's some questionable personalities out there as well, to put it nicely. Meanwhile, HE straight outside, Farlig and Emmy taking worse for wear. And after converting those pistol advantages, they now find themselves up close, and it's Emmy that drills Frozen with the MAC-10. And that opens up business for Secret.
I think it's going to be tough for some of the mousesports players, because I can tell you now that Emmy's done his research. Now, research doesn't always mean results, but at the same time, it's definitely a good way to start. So this round, at least, looking a little bit rough. Of course, Chris playing the primary. Something that I think we're going to enjoy. Like, a lot of people are maybe a bit more critical of Chris because, well, there are a lot of good AWPers in the world. But the fact is, when he's at his best, there are no highlight clips that beat Chris highlight clip. That's just a fact of life. And this is actually a map that, for mousesports, even when they had the likes of Oscar on their team, he was the primary AWPer, because not everybody can AWP this map to a high standard. Even when they initially made this roster and Carrigan was AWPing initially, he still AWPed Nuke. So no matter what, Chris J is a consistent factor on this map.
He will be pushed back, though, with being able to pick up that AWP a little bit longer because of their unsuccessful opening to the game. And not too many kills have really gone his way either. Emmy, though, with already 2, will be looking to add a few more into the mix. It's a double nade stack onto Frozen. Molly behind it affords them safe passage downstairs again. Not that mousesports can really do a great deal about this. And now Zen, you highlighted him as being Mr. Consistent on mousesports. Oh, sorry, on GODSENT, I should say, facing off against mousesports. And so far, he's been doing a pretty good job. Up to 74 ADR. That will definitely spike after this round. And although there's a couple of shots taking shape from heaven, ultimately, the site is about to crumble. And it's Emmy going in first again. GODSENT do not drop a single player. And I'd be surprised if they decide to upgrade either of those MAC-10s. You can take this as a straight-up bonus.
Of course, on the mainstream at the same time, we do have G2 facing off against Furia. I feel like in this match, we sort of have the battle of the brains, and that match is the battle of the brawn. There's so many high firepower players and maybe slightly looser Counter-Strike, where we've already seen that for GODSENT on their T-sides, they love to have those perfectly set up flashbangs. Emmy was given so many free kills in that last match, and that's the thing. That's what we've always looked at with this GODSENT roster and said they have a lot of players that I almost want to call selfless players. Like, Sticko is probably, in my mind, the greatest supportive player, and I don't mean necessarily he plays support. I mean he puts in the work to set up other players. Maybe ever. Like, I can't think of a player that has done more than him for his team.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because at one point he was like that supportive element, and now he's kind of become a carry. He's gone full circle. There's a lot of players, as they get older, they go from being like a star player, one of the best players in the world, to taking more of like a supportive role. I'm thinking of somebody like Olofmeister right now. for FaZe. Like, obviously, he can still stand and trade and get a bunch of kills, but he doesn't typically play in the front line anymore, carrying the team. Stiko's gone the other way, and it's really impressive, and it's a testament to his character and the way that he can adapt and be versatile. But he's a very humble guy as well. Like, you never think that he's a professional player at the very top of his game by speaking to him. Frozen, though, at range, gets a 1-for-1 trade. That may not be good enough for mousesports to hold on to the site. chrisJ can bypass the Molotov, so at least it gives him a better avenue to engage back onto. And Carrigan, with the double spray, has dropped the bomb down. And that puts more pressure on Madden. He knows where one of these players are. He finds chrisJ, but Chris with the M4 is too quick on the draw. 3-1.
mousesports break back, but as you mentioned, the rounds that were won already by GODSENT have been incredibly clean. There's so much finances that they could decide to bring in an AWP if they fancy. Farlig, of course, someone added into this roster for the extra firepower, replacing Makalele, and I'd say that's a pretty decent upgrade. The other side of things, Crystal recently leaving, of course, and Rocks, that flashbang is superb from Frozen. It only nets him 1 kill, but the trade of an SMG, it's not really the end of the world for mousesports. They dropped a rifle to the deck, and interestingly have rotated 2 players down lower on the initial take. BMAS is going to fall on the A site, and that leaves 1 man left. And in fact, they might be making that rotation back just in time.
I'm of the Essence, and chrisJ has maybe a glimmer of hope. It's been dulled down by Farlig. Zen has also been taken out of the equation, though, by Frozen, who was the second player rummaging around the back towards the trophy room lobby area. That seems to have caught GODSENT in a loop, and now Carrigan goes walking through the smoke. Had an unanticipated position. Make sure that the mousesports IGL will have to sit out on the sidelines, and Frozen doesn't fare much better. mousesports get themselves around and instantly retorted on, and it's another pretty straightforward round for GODSENT. Very impressed with their T-half so far.
Yeah, I liked the interview that we had from Farlig especially. I think both players we've spoken to from GODSENT have given us an awful lot of information, more so than we normally get from like the sort of standard answer. Although, to be fair, I think Gade as well was great in the interview we just had, but he spoke about how they're just trying to do everything with conviction, which I think is so important in Counter-Strike. Like, we see players like almost hesitating, doubting moves, and that's where things seem to fall apart. Whereas with GODSENT, that has been the case. The flashes they've thrown, the pushes that come behind them, they've always been with conviction. Now, again, they're going to throw these diagonal smokes outside, allow them a little bit more space than the standard straight ones we see. Emmy is going to open up onto Carrigan again, and in terms of the battle of the in-game leaders, I think he's been winning it so far.
No doubt, and conviction's one of those attributes that's very hard to come by when you're still a relatively new roster under a relatively new IGL with that roster. So it goes to show that Emmy's not just a good tactical leader, but probably a good leader when it comes to sort of people skills, interpersonal social aspect, which is also a key element when it comes to leading. You have very different kinds of IGLs. Emmy will go down to chrisJ, who pushes out of main, but of course it is almost a full-on eco for mousesports. They only have Rops on a Deagle. Definitely capable of causing a bit of mayhem, the Estonian, but unlikely that he'll outright win the round. Does take Farlig off the table, but then 2 insta-kills come back. So yeah, the fact that GODSENT have that conviction and they're following Emmy almost blindly into battle after such a low period of time is really a testament to his leading skills, but also a testament to GODSENT that there aren't huge egos on this team. You know, when an IGL comes in and Crystal goes out, that there could be this weird sort of tug of war almost with players pushing the boundaries and seeing what they can get away with. So realizing if we're all on the same page, we have a much better chance of faring better. And so far, so good.
Yeah, we all know the biggest ego on that team is Devil Walk. Man, so cocky, flexing that major win. And if he's watching this, I'm sorry, please don't hurt me. Either way, we are going to have an investment from mousesports. I am kidding, of course. Devil Walker, a very friendly and humble man. But if we ever see his face on camera, he never looks happy. BMAS top place. They managed to sneak through a little bit, but he gets a freebie onto Sticko, and the push through from Frozen, he's there to support. The surprise factor of Frozen leaves them stunned. And while Madden, the only one left alive, a flawless round for mousesports, a great way to come back onto the board, but as we've mentioned already, GODSENT have been winning their rounds cleanly as well, so they are not in any trouble yet. Also worth noting, Vince, we talk about Madden as sort of that flux player, like the star that sometimes just disappears off the face of the earth. He's got off to a flying start, 11-3.
Exactly. He can be absent, but he can also just go supernova. And right now, mousesports living in his shadow. They do pick up a second, though, so at least they've got a little bit of success. A lot of AKs now trading hands, 3 of them. BMAS uses his AK up against the opposition IGL, trying to subvert the brains behind the operation, perhaps. Madden, 152 ADR on top of those chunks of kills. Will be running into Rops momentarily, but no, the Fin of Zen perches him out. And in doing so, opens up a little bit of ground to push onto B. Player in Decon could be a pain in the backside. It's Chris J, who does get the frag onto Madden as he tries to cross, looking for more, but Zen will pick up another 2. And just like that, mousesports are struggling to breathe.
Zen previously on HS's team, maybe he's giving them some tips of how to take down the Estonian, because it seems many can't do it. Zen, however, is on a tear. 4 kills. I almost feel like Carrigan's like, no, you're not having the ace. I don't care. I'm going to leave. I'm going to walk away. I'm not going to allow you to find me. I don't want to give that much confidence over to him, but damn, we call him the consistent star. Now it's looking like he's into the out-and-out star. Single-handedly winning them around, absolutely destroying the side of mousesports. And that's the thing. Sometimes when Zen has a poorer game, I genuinely believe it's because he's in his own head and he gets frustrated. Like when you see the cams, like if you look through Finnish cams, normally it's the most boring thing in the universe because they're all just straight-faced, never showing any emotion. And when you look at Zen, there is sometimes some frustration there. I think within this team at the moment, everybody is completely behind what is being said, what is being called. I think it could partly be a honeymoon period of, okay, we've got someone new who's going to take us to the next level, and they clearly have faith in Emmy. So maybe we'll come back in 3, 4, 5 months' time and see if everything's still as hunky-dory, you could say, Vince. I know that's a saying that you say very often in your life. But yeah, I think that at the moment, it just looks like everybody is behind the system that Emmy is bringing in.
And it's easy to keep that positivity and to keep that trust and faith when you are playing such good Counter-Strike. What I'll be curious to see is if GODSENT end up going a bit of a bad run, a bad string of results, if that changes. Because when you're winning, everyone smiles, everyone's grins, it's all good, positivity is at the fullest. See if mousesports can start to put that pressure on Emmy. Start to make them sweat a little bit, but right now it's mousesports that do have the player advantage. Deco down first, dead and buried. Frozen dealing with Zen, the man that picked up 3 in the previous round. And it's now Frozen's turn. Frozen turns on the M4, and he gets a 4th on the drive-by. Farlick is being completely destroyed.
Dear Lord. Oh, God. They've got too much talent on mousesports. It's genuinely not fair. Frozen, absolutely ridiculous. He's sort of part of that trifecta of death. And that trifecta doesn't even include Chris J, who can just pop off at any moment. Again, a great round for mousesports to bounce back in, and we're finally starting to see them do some real damage to the economy of this GODSENT side. Emmy going to be down to just a pistol utility at a minimal as well, which is something that we've highlighted has been so successful from them so far, is that they're so good at using their utility to almost get them those entries. And for now, at least, they might have to do without. No AWP as well for Farlig, although it hasn't played the biggest of parts. I can see a battle facing off between Rops and Sticko. You're not going to catch him this time, and although Zen will follow up, he's missed the boat.
Just a little bit too late to join the rest of the troops. Madden Doing a bit of damage to Carrigan as he drops down into vent. At least it's a bit more info. And he's seen the barrel of the gun of Frozen actually drawn main. Hearing footsteps to his left. Madden got so much information there. But unfortunately, because he's lost his life and is only 50 seconds, that information does have a sell-by date. The position of Frozen, though, actually is relevant info. You can see that Emmy is perfectly moving around the corner to supply a kill, but he misses out. The Deagle can be such a cruel weapon at times. Missing out on the consistent shots, and now GODSENT eyeing up the very real threat of Rops, who is down here, the Estonian, waiting, pontificating on the push, looking to dissolve the aggression. Whether GODSENT can get any kills is really the only answer that needs to be coming forth now. Because in terms of the round, Tom, it's pretty much over. They will look to save, however.
Yeah, just sitting back and patiently waiting to see if they can hold on to these guns. Again, for mousesports, a flawless round. Not a player dropped, and they've started to almost wake up, it seems, in the last couple of rounds. Although that one was a bit more of a loose round from GODSENT. I mentioned at the beginning they didn't really have the utility to spare, and it came down to individual battles. And, okay, sure, I feel like when they have faith in themselves, we start to see some of their players play to maybe a higher standard than we might expect. But if it comes down to raw aim, I'm giving this game to mousesports every single time, like, without a doubt, because that's where this team truly thrives. Like, yes, they have the strategy to bring it back, but they have some of the best talent in Counter-Strike at the moment. So looks like this one might be a full start. I don't think the mousesports are going to be playing with 2 players holding hell. It's not quite the normal setup, so we are just going to have a slight technical issue, it seems, but hopefully something that can be sorted out fairly quick. However, for GODSENT here, it's not too much of an issue. Now, we did see Devilwalk tweet saying, like, oh, you know, this map is now T-sided after they beat Astralis, but there's a part of me that believes there might be a little bit of exaggeration on his front because they did win it on the T side. Nonetheless, I think they have proven that they definitely can put up the numbers on the T side, and sometimes their CT at the moment is at least a little bit lacking. So I'm going to sort of wait with bated breath because I know that mousesports, they're also very good at the T side. I think BMAS and Frozen are the 2 that I like to watch, and I think mainly that's because Frozen is a terrifying lurk a lot of times when it comes to outside. Like, he'll like to push the smokes and take risks with team setups. On the other side of things, BMAS is someone that is being almost spoon-fed kills. Like, they will set him up to go into that upper bomb site and look to see if he can find them openers. And that is a terrifying prospect, a young talent with the supporting cast behind him that can seriously do damage.
And a young player that has the tutelage and guidance of veterans like Carrigan and Chris J right alongside them. I think this is why it is such a solid lineup of players that have so many things to give. But we're back into the action. After the false start, it is now very real. And Frozen making sure that Madden will not forget that outside pressure is always a possibility. He falls back into the sanctuary of the boxes. Zen, though, has actually bypassed a lot of this aggression. He somehow got in towards heaven, and this could catch mousesports off guard. With multiple players outside, you don't expect this angle to be under T control. No one's looking up there. Chris J now realizes it, though. He tosses in a HE. He knows this is a possibility. And as Zen comes out, Carrigan and Chris J put down the damage, they put down the pain, and they stop that from really getting out of control. Fast rotation onto Silo. Such a strange round with the T's and CTs exchanging ruthless aggression, but it will be mousesports taking it with only 1 loss of life.
Yeah, it almost seems to be the battle of who can take the most map control the fastest. Like, Zen got there in incredible speed. I do wonder if Chris caught a glimpse of him, because it would seem like he almost peeked out for a millisecond, and then after that point, it never seemed like he doubted that there was nobody there. So either that or he just is a genius, which, you know, that could also be the case. Like, the man has been in this team for many years now. He has outlived some of the best players in the world, and for good reason at that. 6-5. String of rounds continues, and unfortunately, this is actually where an eco comes in. That last round was a full investment, and they get almost nothing done. I think the bank account of mousesports is about to go through the roof. And I don't mean because FaZe is looking to potentially purchase their in-game leader.
GODSENT will be coming back in with another buy. And in the meanwhile, mousesports have now tied it up at 6-6. AK-47s in play with 2 ops. Chris J with the secondary, Rops. I should say the other way around, actually. Rops with the secondary, Chris J with the primary. Depends on the map, I suppose. Depends on the situation. 2 very solid AWPers, whichever way you spin it. Frozen, 13 kills and 102 ADR. Going back to that crazy 4K that he picked up on Garage, it seemed like that was the spike in aggression and activity that mousesports needed. And has actually been locked off. That Molotov tossed in to stop the wall of smokes.
Yeah, that's what we call being a meanie. Because he has completely ruined any plan that they had. Chris J's also rotated in to block off their strategy. An incendiary, a costly grenade used, but it's the right move. Like, they can't play it anymore. They can't take that risk. It's what I said earlier about, like, if I'm talking about a straight up firefight, I am going to give it over to mousesports every single time, where you can see the sort of hesitation from GODSENT knowing, okay, well, if they're going to be focused in on this cross, we almost have to do something else. They delay their take, use their last smoke to try and gain some control. Molotov thrown in, but Sticko is just gone. He's demolished by Frozen, who's on an absolute tear at the moment. They have not been able to stop him. And Zen, he may have got a quad kill earlier, but if he gets one in this situation, wow, it would be a miracle.
At one point, mousesports were trailing 6-2, I believe it was. And now they lead 7-6. A tactical timeout has been dropped as Frozen continues to impress with his M4. Very nice round. Turning this map on its head. In terms of the finances, GODSENT could maybe get a buy. I mean, it's not going to be great. It's only really Farlick can afford fully. So more of a half buy coming into effect. It affords them to get a full one for the last round of the half. But it is looking good for mousesports to potentially post up 9 rounds. And considering how bad this map started for them, Tom, like, that is a crazy turnaround.
Yeah, it almost seems like they've just worked out what GODSENT want to be doing. So one of the things we were sort of looking at when it came to this map was the fact that GODSENT were really good at getting those wrap-in plays from outside. Like, they would pretty much just pincer in on that A site, and Astralis seemed to be struggling with it. So mousesports have just gone, Frozen, don't let anybody go outside without them taking severe damage or a bullet to the face. And if you look at the fragging on their team at the moment, I think the second highest player has something like 7 kills and Frozen has 16. Like, he has just gone on a tear. They haven't been able to do anything about him. They haven't been able to match up. And that's the one thing we sort of worried about when it came to this GODSENT roster, is if we see players on mousesports pop off, is there anything they can do about it?
That is the question being posed to them directly right now. And it's mainly Frozen, to be honest. It's been the Frozen show as he spots multiple players engaging his position, falls back into decon. As long as he stays alive long enough for the rest of the troops to arrive, you expect him to do big things, but it's Carrigan and Rops that both come in first. Deco got one with the Tech 9. Straight away, though, the answer was there. And although GODSENT didn't have too much coming into this in terms of firepower, they'll still be disappointed if they can't get more than just one kill. Carrigan on the cross is close-lining multiple oncoming Ts, and Farlig is the last man standing. Can get the plant down, forced the CTs into an awkward spot, also bypasses the Molotov, only down to 58. It could have been much worse for the Dane, and it has just pretty much been delivered. Frozen again, of course, can't go around without a kill, and mousesports with a successful defuse will be moving through into the last round in a very solid position.
Yeah, big round from Carrigan as well. Triple spray down, of course. It was a weaker purchase coming out from GODSENT, but nonetheless important that they shut it down. And again, we saw success from GODSENT with the pistols yesterday. Their T-side definitely hasn't been anywhere near as successful versus mousesports. And that was the sort of thing I was worrying about. Is like, sure, they were fantastic. They isolated individual players, but we've still seen some weaknesses from Astralis recently. They've not looked on the best of form. In fact, we've just seen an article go through saying that Glaive has reclaimed his spot as in-game leader. Zen, though, he has been a bit of a glimmer of hope, but this time Rops will deny. Now Madden goes for the same peak, it seems, but he's met with an incendiary. Meanwhile, Karrigan's found the bomb. That is not good. Madden, he predicts it, though. Nice kill to at least deny that pressure, but he walks straight into BMAS, and with the bomb at that, Farlick a little bit further behind on the scoreboard as well. He'll need a big clutch here, but he's already got a first. However, Rops will spam him through the wall. mousesports recover after a slow start, and GODSENT are going to have to work it this time on the CT side.
Touch me, it's electricity. Things we discovered underneath last night's covers. Everything came so easy. It's electricity. Electricity. Whoa. It's electricity. Electricity. It's electricity. When it's late at night, I feel you on my skin, you're all that's on my mind. It's finally sinking in. You're it. I know you're feeling different when you're stressed out, but even with no makeup you still stand out. Cause no one makes me feel the way you do now, like you do now. You move your body, it make it look like a hobby. Every time that you touch me, it's electricity. Things we discovered underneath last night's covers. Everything came so easy. It's electricity. Electricity. It's electricity. You move your body. Electricity. You move your body. Electricity.
We are back with mousesports 7 rounds in a row to end the first half. It was looking grim when they were facing the 6-2 scoreline, and then Frozen really started to activate. The rest of the team followed his call, and our mousesports in pretty good shape. The question though, and you discussed this before, Tom, in the first few rounds, how is GODSENT's CT side going to fare compared to mousesports T side? Because invariably, mousesports do pretty decent on this half of the map.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy watching this, and we saw Apex having an interview saying how he had to directly counter some of the plays that were being made previously because of, well, just how much they struggled the first time around. Good start from Zen, though. Went a little bit quiet after his fantastic early stop. What? Oh, it was B-Mass. I thought, how on earth has Chris managed to do that? Didn't even have his gun in his hand. That's magic. Just pew-pew with the fingers, and that will get him a kill, but no. We're going to see the Molotov dropped in by Chris, making things a little Frozen. He's going to have the timing onto Sticko, and although it takes him a few bullets, he gets it through. brings things back into a 3v3 situation. Bebass is so blind, but they haven't checked. He's going to get a free kill off the back of it. Can he convert the second? He will. And Frozen helps him out to give them a 10th. mousesports continue their streak, now making it to 8 rounds in a row. And I'll be curious to see, well, yes, there is going to be a force fight here.
20 kills for Frozen after Zen picked up the first. It was the Slovakian to shut it all down. GODSENT do go for a force. As expected, though, the Orper of Farlig doesn't fully invest all of his cents and dollars. Now Stiko's going to be watching eagle-eyed for a potential ramp push. Has the Deagle. There are more than enough banana peels here that mousesports could slip and slide out of the round if they're not careful. If they overextend, they will be punished. And Stiko, there's so many footsteps, comes up. Oh, it's a 2-for-1 and Stiko shuts it down with authority. What the hell was that?
Well, we're going to need to see that one in as slow-mo as humanly possible. Maybe even save that one for later, for an analyst segment, because that is utterly ridiculous. We've just seen Stiko destroy the side of mousesports, but Frozen is standing. Now, I'm not saying he can win. And he can't. Here we go.
God, this play from Stiko is outrageous.
Oh, here, yes. Yes, the slowest of slow-mos. Dear Lord. Rops and Carrigan, see you later. That bullet had both of your names on it. And well, mousesports, they've given them a way back in. A lifeline created by Stiko. You mentioned it earlier, you were like, he's definitely not that support player anymore. He's not a player. Like, I made the joke previously, which I don't know how happy he'd be with this joke, but I was saying that there was once where Oscar dropped him a gun, and it was like the freeing of Dobby the house elf, who'd basically just been like consistently just giving him guns forever and ever, and finally Oscar gave one back and Stiko was free.
Chris has the right idea here. He's just slightly off. And Zen is like, hold up, how the hell are all these bullets passing just in front of my face? What is going on here? I better go and check out what's happening. And of course he gets drilled, and then Frozen goes in. He wants to return the favor to Stiko. They have to be very careful here, GODSENT. They're at that kind of range where the scouts and Ds can be oh so deadly, but Madden with the M4, he's unflinching. He's not interested. And our BMAS and Rops with 22 HP on the two of them have now been culled down to just the Estonian. And with the Deagle in hand and no control over the bomb, he may try and snake round the back of his adversaries. My God, Rops, could you get any closer to your monitor there, Chief? He's going to get sucked inside if he's not careful.
Play the game. I must be the game. You know what, Vince? I'm going to let him do what he wants to do because he's one of the best players in the world and you're not. So maybe I will start sitting that close to my monitor and, you know, well, we've already seen you start to fade into the Matrix a couple of times this stream. Maybe he's just trying to take a more direct approach.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally on board if he wants to go full Neo. Sure. I don't even pass judgment, dude. I'm just worried for his eyes, honestly.
That's true. Needs a glasses sponsor. That's what it is. Come on, someone pull out that check or, you know, other form of money that's actually not completely void and useless nowadays. Yeah, I think I have the most first world problem ever, which is if my grandparents ever want to give me money, they try to give it to me in a check, and I'm so lazy I can't be bothered to go to the bank and pay it in.
Yeah, that's pretty lazy, mate. I'm not gonna lie. Well, here we go. Enough about checks and laziness and all that shenanigans. GODSENT. They mounted a real comeback, Tom. I was worried that they would just get capitulated after that pistol. But since the crazy Stiko play, they've been in fine form. 3 rounds on the bounce. looking to make another one. Maybe they can cut down mousesports' economy. Rops, though, has other ideas. AK in hand, has neutralized Zen, who has been one of the key playmakers on GODSENT.
Sticko once again, he got 2 for 1 last time. This time, well, it's buy 1 and pay for 1. He's not going to get anything more. Chris J and Frozen bounce back. Rops is also continuing, leaving Emmy alone. The new man on the block. A lot left to do. He does manage to at least get himself 1. Problem is, mousesports have now rotated themselves into the B site. The chance of him winning this round is slim to none. Frozen also holding to make sure he can't make his way outside, so he will only be able to come down the vent, pretty much just sectioning things off. And he might just look to save the Galil, or hopefully find something slightly better than a Galil.
Pretty bleak options, really, when the best you're hoping for is an upgrade. You know, the round is slipped through your fingers. I suppose the good news, though, for Emmy is he will have plenty of decisions and options available to him as a result of their winning ways, having posted up a decent amount of cash. Additionally, AK-47 into the arsenal of weaponry, who will not get tested by any of mousesports, who simply couldn't afford to throw any more guns away. So mousesports regain a 2-round lead, but GODSENT have enough to pick up an AWP. Could even go for the double AWPs if they want to emulate what mousesports went for. They had Rops and Chris J using them. And they're going to take their sweet time and make sure that they're all on the same page, knowing how important this round really is.
They have the money to pretty much do whatever they want. Sticko had so much cash remaining that he's going to spend $8,250 in this round and still have a little bit to spare. Not going for any double AWPs or anything of the sort just yet. We know that Madden can man one, but we're fairly early on in this half, and they're not going to want to take too many audacious risks just yet. It's not like they're out of this one. It's not like things are falling apart. At the same time, you don't want to allow mousesports to get any closer. This is your map choice. Inferno coming up next is one that you didn't really compete with them on last time, and although I'm sure Amy will have seen this coming, he hasn't had a massive amount of time to prepare for this match, only knowing over the last day or two.
A lot more information out there to research from mousesports than GODSENT, and I'm sure Emmy has done his homework and then some, but Carrigan slipping into main. Only getting 1, could have done better, but now the rest of the troops are arriving at the crime scene to dispatch Frozen, judge, jury, and executioner with the AK, but now he's on the receiving end of the battering, and BMAS, last to fall from Sticko. Felt like mousesports had that in the bag, but GODSENT snatched it away from them.
Yeah, good couple of rotations. Like Carrigan, I feel like maybe should have got more than 1 here, but it's Madden to sort of snap back after his teammate goes down and get an impactful double, and then Sticko as well. The jump down, giving him some extra time, and he will nail the final kill. Once again, mousesports actually going to be on the brink here. An investment, though. Chris goes for the quick scout shot, but finds nothing.
No kill forthcoming, and with smokes now being put down in the eyes of mousesports, I have the choice of, do we want to push into almost certain death, or do we want to just buy that time a little bit longer? It seems like pushing in is the call that they've gone for, and the timing nearly works out for them. Carrigan nearly doubling up. Caught a player with his pistol out. I think it was Madden, but Zen helped him out. Now mousesports deciding not to fully push behind the initial charge. There'll be a second wave of aggression. It will likely, though, meet the same fate.
Majority of players as well don't really have much in this round at all. Like, sure, you've got Chris J, who had a bit of extra cash, who has invested into a Scout Kevlar, but other than that, no one else even has any armor of any sort. Barlig, he's been having a bit of a rough time thus far, but he won't miss that shot onto Chris, and now the remaining offense looks to try and pressure onto Sticko. A passive angle. Now, they could realistically get quite close to him, but they're going to try and cross. Spotting him out, that's the one for free. Knows the second is there, but I imagine at this point, Frozen, even though he's been incredible, can't do anything with that low health. And the information given to Farlig will get things to 11-11. GODSENT showing again they can do it on either side of this map. I'm really excited for the future of this team. Like we sort of mentioned it already in the last series, but even if they were to lose here, even if they were to lose the next 2 games, not make it to playoffs, they've already left enough of a mark in my mind that they should definitely be giving Emmy a few months to try and whip this team into shape.
Future certainly is bright. Molotovs and smokes being deployed outside. Frozen just runs straight down Secret. I should also highlight this additionally that it's not as if mousesports have been in a slump. They've won their last 4 games, including victories against the likes of Heroic. I see GODSENT before. They're really in a good position. Their last time they played Nuke was against Heroic, arguably one, if not the best Nuke team on the planet. They beat them 16-7, Tom. Like, it was a complete massacre. And yet GODSENT are here, standing their ground, unflinching, unblinking. And right now, ahead in terms of HP.
Yeah, by a lot. Chris J and Frozen both desperately low, and we're yet to really see too many of the stars actually shine here. Like, it has been Frozen. I think maybe the next top fragger on their team might actually be Carrigan. I'm not sure. Like, Rops is, I think, at the same. Chris is a bit quiet. BMAS hasn't had the impact they'd like, so it almost seems like, sure, maybe some of the mousesports players are a little bit quieter, but also GODSENT are going toe-to-toe with them. Again, showing up strong. Now, a lot of control has been taken, but by both sides. Emmy not looking in the right direction, but luckily Chris was low. However, he can't trade onto BMAS. It will be the bomb retrieved. The rest of the team not really in too much of a position to do anything. Frozen, his position is everything. He may be low, but he executes both. Leaves Farlig as the last man standing. There's only 15 seconds for them to plant. Can he deny them getting the bomb? No! It goes into the hands of Rops. He will stop one, but he's going to try and push forward. The bomb being stuck. Rops taking a risk, but Farlig has it down. The Dane has been a little bit quiet so far, but when they needed him most, he wins the 1v2. And more importantly, Vince, GODSENT are in the lead.
In the lead with mousesports in an awkward position financially. They can force together a buy, but Chris J and Carrigan will be dipping down to potentially Galils, and if they get an AK, they'll have no grenades. So, very curious to see what they go for here, but I also love that Rops, by the way, went for the plant on the front of the site. Like, the audacity to actually go for that.
Yeah.
He ended up getting killed anyway, but like that is such a risky play. And mousesports decide not to go for the buy. They want to hold on. They want to make sure that going into round 25, they have a really, really healthy purchase with maybe an AWP and plenty of AKs. Maybe they can get it done. They've got a UMP, they've got pistols, but they're also running into the blockade in the form of Emmy. 2 kills go his way. Carrigan with some labored spray gets punished by Zen. And now Frozen, the man with 27, will not move any closer to the 30 mark. Instead, GODSENT repel the push and only lose Madden.
Gonna be a pause and a right timing for one as well. Mousesports, they need to ping up around here, otherwise things are over on a map that, as said, they are very, very good at. As said, challenging some of the best teams in the world. You mentioned it moments ago that they took down Heroic, and sure, it definitely seems like within the top of CS at the moment, anybody can beat anyone on any map, but Heroic and Astralis have both been very good. Both of these teams have taken them down, and GODSENT showing, hey, that wasn't a fluke. We are here to play. We're looking strong. And even with Frozen popping off, because that was the thing, like, sure, Frozen's on 27 kills. Everyone else is very far behind, less than half. Like, he's adding up 2 of the other stars and some. You combine BMAS and Rops or anybody else. It's impressive. And on the other side of things, Madden, Zen, they're both here. Everybody else has had impactful rounds. Farlig with the clutch just a moment ago. That nade's not gone where it's supposed to. In fact, dunks back onto Carrigan's head. The spray for Frozen, though. Dear Lord, he gets tagged, and it's like, you want to attack me? Well, you better expect a response.
A response comes out from Steeko. But that's the only kill that goes their way. Frozen now spinning around, pivoting in for more, but he has fallen. And as discussed, if he falls, it seems like a lot of the fragging power goes with him. Chris J, though, puts the AWP to use. And now Stiko, who got the first kill in the round, now has to come full circle and somehow pull off a 1v3. Now, the money in a position where they can buy, but saving the M4 and all the utility he has alongside it definitely would be a welcome takeout of the round for GODSENT. mousesports proving that patience in the previous round when they could have forced a buy together and decided not to was potentially the correct decision. GODSENT, though, certainly by no means will be feeling too stressed about the situation. They still have the round advantage. They still have come out ahead so often in these grueling one-on-one duels. When mousesports have tried going out aggressively, whether it be outside, whether it be through main. I'm curious, Tom, if eventually we start to see some ramp hits come in, because mousesports, for the most part, haven't really aggressed on this side of the map.
No, that's true. I guess when you get one Deeg or two of you at once, that might put the fear of God into you ever going back in that direction. And I think the Stiko's hold over there has been pretty stellar so far. He's most of the time he's been caught out, it seems to be when he's rotating, but I think he makes things awkward for them. And sure, like we're not looking at him necessarily being the star fragger of this team, but it doesn't make it any easier to get past him. In fact, I would say in terms of intelligence when it comes to Counter-Strike players, he's probably right up with the best of them. Barlig waiting on the angle. Smoke will leave him without too much vision. Actually, Zen's going to go pushing through it. He's caught because of it. Maybe a bit of a misplay, but nonetheless, Barlig's still in play. Going to turn the tide, but remember, this is a crunch round, and maybe he bites back. Another kill. He misses the shot. That looked like a freebie onto Carrigan, but it doesn't go his way. Madden trying to re-aggress is caught. Carrigan shuts down Stiko, and Emmy will head down looking into the ground, mainly waiting for someone to push through, but they may never come.
I mean, not for the first time, last man standing, surrounded by T's, surrounded by threats. Doesn't have any grenades to accompany him into battle. No kit. But maybe if they do come to A, there is a way that Emmy can make this work. Different angle. Should be getting the drop on Chris J. Bomb should be going down. It does. It's a labored spray, but he course corrects in time to deal with his opposition IGL. And now Rops, who is just chilling, playing mainly as the last bastion of hope is next to fall. Potentially, the timing is so rough. He may have expected a flash to come into play. And how brutal. Such a nice try for Emmy. So close, yet so very far.
He got him down to AHP. He literally almost got him at the end, even having to 180. That would have been the biggest flex of all time. If he was like, I have my back turned to you. It's a bit like he's sitting on the cams. I don't even face you when you're my opponent. This is a really nice try, though. As said, like, this last kill, he actually hits him down to 8. I think he dinked him through the corner of the wall. That's ridiculous. That's so unlucky for Emmy. Heartbreaking. And again, him showing that even though he might be in-game leading, and in the past, well, his fragging power wasn't necessarily shown. He's been up there. 13-13, though, and, well, the difference maker between winning that round and losing that round. Money.
So often the case, CS comes down to how the economy bounces back against the CTs. It can be such a cruel game at times, and Chris J, I was curious when we'd see a bit more aggression through ramp. It seems like now is the time, but hold on a second, I've got a bit of deja vu here, Tom. It's Stiko, it's in the same position. Surely lightning will not strike twice, but Stiko could be the conductor and put forward a beautiful symphony of destruction onto mousesports if they do not tread lightly. He decides to go back up again. He also has a bit of cover coming out in the form of Zen. The T's starting to make a move back. Chris J, caught out in the open, gets punished. And Stiko's still alive to tell the tale. He's forced them back single-handedly, and through all of that ruckus and chaos, Emmy's now taking the point up close. He's got the CZ run and gun style, but runs into the blockade, and Carrigan deals with him.
The push still coming in from Stiko, though. He's looking to try and carry them through, but BMAS waiting, watching, and Zen still with an AWP, but the chance is looking slim. He finds one kill. We've seen some nearlies when it comes to the clutches from him. Nade out, spots the man above, goes for the pick, finds it as well. It's another 1v1, and this time Zen brings it home. Huge clutch rounds coming out for GODSENT. They are showing that on the individual level, they are still alive and kicking. And I remember you asked a question earlier, Vince, about maybe they should put some pressure on ramp. I wholeheartedly disagree. Stay as far away from Sticko as possible. This ramp is off limits.
Yeah, he keeps shutting it down. My only concern for mousesports is that it felt half-hearted on the aggression. Chris J went in first, and they didn't really push like multiple players out there. It is, of course, understandable if they have a little bad feeling when it comes to the ramp plays. Chris J wanted to go for the peak. Cost him 50 of his health as a bit of a price of admission. It turns out he couldn't get on the ride anyway. That's what feels bad. He's been completely conned.
Yeah, Blair will know a lot about that. The funny thing is as well, is normally he's in and watching the game at this point because he'll be coming up next, but I think the B stream's cut a little bit short today, so he may never know that I've just wrecked him for no reason, which is even better. It's always good to talk about people behind their backs. Moving swiftly on. Don't do that, scummy. I'll say it to his face. Farlig has rotated into position. Now, they've managed to force Sticko out of spot, which has been something they've struggled with thus far, but it was almost a bit of a bait. I feel like he was trying to use the footsteps to pull them into a peak versus Farlig. Instead, it looks like they're going to try peek him outside. A risk and a risk not worth it. He gets a freebie kill. Madden has already found another onto BMAS, and they need Carrigan to find a pick here. Instead, he falls to his fellow Dane. 2 remain, Vince. They need a hefty clutch, and in fact, it's left all onto Frozen. And he was on 29 kills for quite a while. That 30 bomb has eluded him. Not that I feel like this match slipping away has anything to do with him individually. He has been superb, but there have been other players stepping up now for GODSENT, and mousesports, they're going to need one hell of a tactical pause.
I have no idea what Carrigan could possibly say right now. Needs somebody else to just kind of step up to the plate, and by the sounds of things, by the looks of things, not much is being said from the IGL. Now he's having a few words, maybe relaying information from the troops, like any ideas from the likes of Chris J. Anything they've picked up on could be acting as almost like a detox period, just to relax and calm down the motivation, momentum, try and take some of it away from GODSENT, who are now on map point. This is their choice of map, with Inferno coming up next, which on paper should be a very solid map for mousesports, but I honestly felt the same here about Nuke. And again, GODSENT are going above and beyond what people expect of them. And I'm loving watching them play. It has been a true breath of fresh air. There is a gap in the smoke, and Frozen, not too deterred by that, pushes straight through with a flashbang. I'm not sure if Zen realized it either. It was when he dipped back into main. Now, if GODSENT were to win this, you have to go back to that Zen clutch and say that may have been the moment. Rops has now been picked off. Sticko flashed out of position. It seems like mousesports decided they do want to try and go back into ramp, but they're losing and hemorrhaging so many players outside that it doesn't allow them to go for a 2-pronged attack. They're now desperation mode, rushing into A, rushing into the arms of GODSENT, who slapped them away and are looking more and more likely, unless BMAS pulls off a ridiculous 1v5, that GODSENT will have first blood in this best of 3. I am absolutely speechless at how well they've played this map.
For context for anybody at home, this is their 3rd best of 3 played with Emmy. The first, they lost to mousesports. The second, they beat Astralis. The third, they're about to take first blood, it seems, although there's 30 seconds for BMAS to play with. Not been as alive as maybe we would have liked him to be. Waiting for the Molotov to fade. Will at least retrieve the bomb. Nice movement to get it back, but the fact is there are players waiting for him above the hut, below it, alongside it. He has got a crossfire over the ages, and although he'll get 1 kill, GODSENT are going to take themselves the first map. The fact is, Vince, if they have 1 fan, I think I'm that fan, but at this point, they've got to be building up many more. Emmy has come in, and it seems like he's revolutionized things, or at least given them the confidence, I would say, to bring things home. That is the second Nuke game they've won against two now Titan Nuke teams. I almost feel like I want to see them face off against Heroic, just so we know if they may be one of the best Nuke teams in the entire world.
Yeah, and again, to put it into context, mousesports beat Heroic recently 16-7 on Nuke, and they've just beat mousesports. Like, it's beyond belief how good GODSENT are on this map, and they've had such little practice together. Now we move to Inferno. There's definitely going to be a few more obstacles, perhaps, but I just want to plug myself in and enjoy the show, Tom. I think it could be another really enjoyable match.
Well, it's been a banger so far. A close map to start, but we've got a break to come, and then we will break this one down. Maybe a new challenger for the best Nuke team in the world. GODSENT in 2 days have taken down Astralis and now mousesports. And hey, if they go through Heroic, we might have to start seriously putting them into contention, as this has been an impressive display. Plenty of highlights to be had, of course, Vince, but more importantly, it just seems like the players themselves are feeling confident, not only in their individual ability, but also in the calling that's behind them. Very decisive in their plays, and honestly, I really enjoyed watching this game. And going into it, after what we saw from mousesports playing against them before, I was a bit worried that this would be sort of lackluster, potentially a blowout one where it was just like, oh, well, they just beat Astralis, they didn't do anything else. But GODSENT have already come in and gone, nope, it wasn't a fluke, we are ready to play.
Certainly not a fluke, Tom. They absolutely deserved the victory. There were definitely elements, though, that I will highlight here that were a little bit of a concern, a little bit of an alarm bell. Frozen was really the only player on mousesports that impressed me. You're expecting to see Rops up there. You're expecting to see maybe BMAS, somebody like really pulling their weight. They didn't really. It was Frozen. I think he ended on like 30 kills or very close to 30, even though they lost. Additionally, we said coming into it that in terms of individual ability, it would have to be GODSENT almost like outplaying them strategically and using the element of surprise with not really knowing much about what they bring to the table. Individually, they had better players this game. Like, Zen pulled off a crazy clutch. Stiko pulled off a crazy clutch. They just, across the board, were doing better with less. That is what is worrying to me. And now we move across to Inferno, and this absolutely could be a map where these individuals could be the difference maker. If mousesports don't wake up here, Tom, there is a very real possibility that GODSENT 2-0 this after just having beat Astralis, which would be a fairy tale situation.
Yeah, for sure. I will put the caveat, of course, that, again, the last time we saw, obviously, mousesports won both maps, but we are yet to really see the full implementation of what Emmy has to offer when it comes to Inferno. So, although, like previously, as we said, we saw a better look on their nuke. We already know that what they did versus Astralis, clearly, they improved a lot from when they played mousesports the first time. They now, like, follow whatever Emmy seems to be saying quite clearly. It's great. But that doesn't necessarily mean coming into Inferno, he's going to have been able to magically just put out his wand and just go, hey, you know, I've fixed absolutely everything in like 3 days.
Exactly. And, you know, Folek said it as well in the pregame that it was like, oh, it's a week ago. We basically got wrecked by them. We didn't have any cohesion. It's like, well, in 7 days, what could have changed? Well, apparently a lot has changed, Tom. Apparently some miracles have been made.
Yeah, you know, they fixed it all by Wednesday, and on Thursday and Friday and Saturday, they ended up beating Astralis. So, yeah, you never know. Maybe they'll win the whole tournament. We are yet to see. Inferno is going to be coming up in just a moment. Shout out to Craig David, of course. And other than that, we are going to go into our next map. I cannot wait to see whether or not GODSENT have been able to fix all of their problems, or if mousesports are going to break right back. We'll see you in just a moment.